Self-care is not selfish, huh? Now, isn't that just the kind of thing you'd expect to hear from someone lounging in a spa with a face mask and a glass of wine, blissfully ignoring their emails and the fact that their laundry hasn't been done in weeks? Let's be real. For some folks, self-care has become the perfect excuse to indulge in every guilty pleasure imaginable under the guise of mental health. But is it selfish? Depends on who you ask and what you're trying to avoid doing. Imagine this. Your friend cancels plans with you last minute, citing a need for self-care. You picture them lighting candles, soaking in a tub with rose petals, maybe listening to some calming meditation tracks. But then you check their Instagram, and there they are, binging on Netflix with a mountain of junk food, looking more like they're preparing for a food coma than achieving inner peace. Self-care has somehow morphed from practicing mindfulness to perfecting the art of procrastination. If self-care means avoiding responsibilities like paying bills or showing up to work, then maybe it's time to rethink what we're calling self-care. Now, here's the controversy. Isn't self-care, at its core, supposed to be about taking a moment to recharge so you can be a better version of yourself, for yourself and others? But some people treat it like an Olympic sport, aiming for gold in how much me time they can clock in. The only marathon they're running is a 10-hour snooze fest, and their version of burning out involves too much time in bed with their phone. Sure, taking time for yourself is important, but if your entire life revolves around avoiding anything that remotely smells like effort or commitment, maybe we've crossed the line from self-care into self-indulgence. It's funny how self-care is often used as a get-out-of-jail-free card for things you just don't want to do. Oh, I'm not going to your wedding because I need some self-care. Translation: your wedding sounds boring, and I'd rather binge-watch reality TV in my pajamas. It's become this all-purpose justification for bowing out of any and all obligations. Meanwhile, the concept of self-care gets watered down to the point where anything, even eating a tub of ice cream because you're stressed, counts as nurturing your soul. Of course, some people genuinely need self-care because they're on the brink of burnout. We've all been there. But there's a fine line between taking care of your mental health and using it as an excuse to avoid adulting. If your form of self-care involves never leaving the house, never meeting deadlines, and ghosting everyone because people are exhausting, it might be time to face the music and admit you're just avoiding life. After all, life can be pretty demanding, but hiding in a blanket fort forever isn't exactly a long-term strategy for success. Unless, of course, your life goal is to become a professional hermit. Then there's the backlash. The crowd that thinks self-care is selfish, that taking any time for yourself is indulgent or narcissistic. Self-care? Back in my day, we called it suck it up. But these are the same people who are one bad day away from screaming at a barista over a wrong coffee order. Maybe if they took a little time for self-care, they wouldn't feel the need to rain on everyone else's parade. A little TLC could go a long way in keeping them from becoming the poster child for midlife crises and grumpy old men everywhere. So, what's the answer? Is self-care selfish? Well, it can be, if it's just an excuse to dodge reality and leave others to pick up the slack. But done right, it's like recharging your phone. Nobody thinks twice about plugging in their device when it's low on battery, so why should we feel guilty about taking a little time to recharge ourselves? The trick is to make sure that self-care is actually, well, care, and not just a socially acceptable way to be lazy. At the end of the day, self-care isn't about escaping life. It's about refueling for it. Because if you spend too much time focusing on self-care, you might miss out on the life you're supposed to be living, full of all the messiness, effort, and yes, even the occasional stress. And no amount of bath bombs can give you that back. So go ahead and take that day off, indulge in some me time. But remember, at some point, you've got to get up and face the world again. Because no one's life was ever changed by binge-watching yet another Netflix series.